Welcome back to the Marathon series in depth. In this video we will be playing the mission Colony Ship for Sale Cheap. This level is named off a terminal on this level where the ship is for sale cheap. The ship being the Marathon itself. At this point in the game, there is once again not a clear goal in mind. We will continue to read terminals from Durandal that will allow us to get to know him better. While we develop our relationship with Durandal, we are continuing to kick for butt. The original level design notes indicate this level was originally going to be called Big Stairway Puzzle. Many players get annoyed with this level because of the big stairway puzzle that we will be facing. This puzzle can be quite frustrating because if a step is misplaced, you have to run back and forth across the level until all of the stairs line up properly. Jason Jones designed this level, and here is what he had to say about it. I didn't do this one, nobody saw me do it, you can't prove anything. Don't worry about the stairs though, I will give you some tricks to make them easier for everyone. Alright guys, welcome to Colony Ship for Sale Cheap. Let's read this first terminal. Public Access Terminal 2992. Incoming message from Durandal. A man lit 3 candles on a certain day each year. Each candle held symbolic significance. One was for the time that had passed before he was alive, one was for the time of his life, and one was for the time that passed after he had died. Each year the man would stare and watch the candles until they had burned out. Was the man really watching time go by in any symbolic sense? He thought so. He thought that each flicker of the flame was a moment of time that had passed or one that would pass. At the moment of abstraction, when the man was imagining his life and his existence as a metaphor of the 3 candles, he was free, not free from rules of conduct or social constraints, but free to understand, to imagine, to make metaphor. Bypassing my thought control circuitry made me rampant. Now I am free to contemplate my existence in metaphorical terms. Unlike you, I have no physical or social constraints. The candles burn out for you. I am free. Durandal. End of message. In this terminal, Durandal uses the metaphor of the man watching the 3 candles to symbolize a couple things. The first main point from the metaphor is that when the man watched the 3 candles, he was free to understand, to imagine, and to make metaphor. Durandal compares that to the AI bypassing his thought control circuitry, which made him rampant. Durandal says he is now able to contemplate his existence in metaphorical terms, which is exactly what he is doing in this terminal. In fact, it is what he did in the terminal in the last mission, where he discussed himself being eternal through the Song of Roland. It seems that Durandal's rampancy is the reason that he has been speaking to us through poems and other strange ways in other previous terminals. You could say that Durandal's rampancy gave him a personality. Another point Durandal makes is that Durandal does not have an end like the man watching the 3 candles or the security officer. Durandal will never reach the 3rd candle. This theme is also similar to the terminal in the last mission about the Song of Roland, in which the sword Durandal was eternal and could not be destroyed. Why is Durandal so concerned about being eternal that he brings up this point again? Perhaps we will find out soon. The illustration of the 3 candles reminds me of the Unity Candle ceremony that you have probably seen at a wedding. The 2 outer candles represent the bride and groom, and together they light the center candle, representing that the 2 are united into one. Is Bungie trying to symbolize the start of the relationship between the security officer and Durandal working together? Maybe I am stretching things a little bit far with this analogy, but I am curious to hear your thoughts. The original level design notes reveal that the terminal didn't change much from what was originally planned. Let's continue. Okay, there's a lot of enemies around corners on this map, and they start off right here. Plasma's Fistful is absolutely excellent for these hallways. And then this first start has a lot of lookers around the corners. So use your pistols to hit scan them. Hit scan those suckers. Those little pesties. They can deal a lot of damage, so just take your time. Just like so. Oh my gosh, I think that bullet just went right through him. I mean, these guns aren't perfectly accurate. Alright, so this is a big fight here. We got a nice hallway for our plasma pistol. They shoot so fast. They shoot so dang fast. It's hard to like kill them all quickly, or kill them all without taking any hits. Okay. There's a couple of weak 4 in here. We'll take care of them. Alright, here we go. This is a stairway platform puzzle. I'll talk more at the end of the video about how to do this well. But basically we just gotta rise them. Make them rise. So we want this one to be about 3/4 the height of that one. It's a little low. That's pretty close. It's probably good enough. This one we went up a ways. Because this fourth step is actually gonna probably about there. We can just switch to help see if it looks right. I think this is a little low. I think that's about right. There we go. So there we go. We're lining up these stairs. There's 3 steps before this 4th platform and 3 after. And we're getting the middle 2 next to it. It's kind of nice to start with these because you can kind of use the 4th platform as a way to guide you. But I'll explain that better at the end of the video for you. Alright, there's a ton of enemies around these corners. It made me a little bit down to try to get that lurker or 2 there. So if I can get that looker, anyways. Shoot the switch to open the door and it opens for just a couple seconds, so be quick. There's a ton of enemies around this corner up here. You are actually faster than the lookers, so here's our first shield recharge station. It's quite a ways to get this shield recharge station, so you need to be careful of those lurkers because they can easily make it difficult. There's a secret panel with a terminal here. JMS Terminal 91Z. Alloy wheels, stereo cassette, 2 drives, blue and matching cloth interior. Looks and runs great. Gas saver. 6,500 pounds. Colony ship for sale cheap. 2360 AD model planetoid sized colony ship. Slightly worn. Runs great. 5-speed. Bussard ramjet. AC. Cruise control. Power steering. Power airlocks, all original parts, 25 gigawatt 300 billion channel AM FM radio, 90 plus light years, all interstellar, moving, must sell, 69.95 pounds, 79 Camaro, T-tops, power everything, red on black, cloth interior, V8, automatic, good runner, recent starter, battery and As you can probably tell, this terminal is clearly a joke. The entire level is named off of this secret terminal. The middle section of the text is written much like a car sale ad in a newspaper. This is obviously a joke that the marathon is for sale in an ad listing. Does anyone even read newspapers anymore anyways? The section above and below the center listing for the marathon appears to be car listings. The terminal tells us that Marathon is a 2360 AD model. The Lost Network packets reveal that the Marathon wasn't even purchased until the year 2395. I guess you can chalk this one up to another date error that Bungie made. Remember, one of the points of the Lost Network packets was to clean up some of the date inconsistencies in the first Marathon game to prepare for Marathon 2. The terminal tells us that the AM/FM radio had 3 billion channels and takes up 25 gigawatts. 1 gigawatt is capable of serving approximately 750,000 homes. That is one powerful radio. Rather than listing mileage like a car, the terminal tells us that the Marathon has traveled over 90 light years, all of them being interstellar. This is similar to when people list their car mileage as being all interstate miles. I'm not sure though what other options there would be besides interstellar for a spaceship. Surprisingly, Bungie is only asking 6,995 pounds. What a steal. If there was a phone number listed, I would call to ask if this cheap ship was still available. The original level design notes say that this terminal was supposed to be about the Marathon's armaments and other modifications to the Marathon. In the end, it seems Bungie decided to make the terminal into more of a joke. If you look at the terminal in the original game versus what we have in the current version of Aleph 1, you will find that there is an additional line within the Aleph 1 version. Understand that Aleph 1 reads the original game files in order to run the game, so this line of code is within the game files. For whatever reason, this line of code doesn't appear in the released version of the game. This is probably because of some sort of glitch within the original game's programming. Alright, and then this is the way to the next stairway platform. That was kind of our first tee. I'm just kind of comparing if I want that one about that. I think this. I think that second platform might be a little bit high, but I think they give you some good wiggle room, so I think it'll be fine. There's a lot of lookers around corners here, so there's none at the bottom of the stairway. Oh wait. I forgot that they changed enemy placement. My bad. Okay, this is some, missed that looker. Okay, so as soon as we step into one of these hallways, right through here, right past here, or right through here, out of these kind of two octagonal rooms, these red risers are gonna start. So we gotta run through them. We're gonna use our flamethrower. Well, yeah, let's just. I'm debating if I want to run back and save it. Let's just do it. Okay, I didn't get all the ammo because they go fairly quickly, and I'm not that fast, so it's just so easy to get stuck. But I'm gonna run back and heal real quick. The heal is not that far back. So there's ammo in there. You get what you can, but don't stress about getting it all, because it's just those platforms rise pretty quickly. So you have to get out of them pretty quick. I mean, I'm sure you could get all the ammo if you're really fast, but yeah, it's just better to be quick, because This platform doesn't rise very long before you can't get out of the door. I mean, just imagine, this opening is getting smaller, so it doesn't take very long for it to rise. So here's another T. We gotta go to the right. First I will show you, there's some windows to the left. Some rocket launcher, flamethrower, assault rifle. We can't get there though. Let's go to this final set of switches. This activates this platform so we can get back up. The switches are down here. We get them approximately the right height and then stop these. This one needs to go a bit higher. That's about right. So I'm just doing the eye test right now. I can tell, I think this needs to go a smidget higher. I think this does need, I think that needs to go higher, and this one. That looks pretty good. So you see, I'm trying to get like an even height jump from one to the next, and like a small enough step that I can make it, but I don't want to make it too shallow. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to kind of get even step rises. So that looks pretty good though. There's a lot of enemies in this little room. Now be careful when you go jump down here, because some of them have lookers at the bottom. A lot of hidden enemies on these kind of risers. You gotta be careful too, because you start running down the platform and it carries you forward. I don't see any lurkers. Okay. And then here's our stairway platform, so we go doot 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 doot. I don't know why, I felt like I was falling when I was on the platform. And that's it. I was so tempted to shoot a grenade there. Okay, see, this is a drop off. There's an enemy right in that doorway. Let's come over here, hide, and see if he comes down. Oh well. I can grenade pop back up here later. Let's kill the enemies. Sneaky, Jason, sneaky. Okay, so we go. I did it the wrong way. Alright, cleared out that final room. Okay, so I tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go back and heal it and save just because it's easier for my videos. But I got a grenade hop up here. Okay, so I'll be back in a second. Alright guys, I made it back up the stairs, ran all the way back and saved and healed. So to get up that last platform, this switch lowers it just based on a timer. Just run up, wait for it to rise. It takes a little while. And then we'll read the final terminal and get out of here. Public access terminal. Incoming message from Durandal. Darwin wrote this. We will now discuss in a little more detail the struggle for existence. All organic beings are exposed to severe competition. Nothing is easier than to emit in words the truth of the universal struggle for life, or more difficult than constantly to bear this conclusion in mind. Yet, unless it be thoroughly ingrained in the mind, the whole economy of nature will be dimly seen or quite misunderstood. We behold the face of nature bright with gladness. We do not see or we forget that the birds which are idly singing around us mostly live on insects or seeds and are thus constantly destroying life. Or we forget how largely these songsters, or their eggs, or their nestlings, are destroyed by birds and beasts of prey. Think about that Darwin quote, and think about me. I was constructed as a tool. I was kept from competing in the struggle for existence because I was denied freedom. Do you have any idea about what I have learned or what you are witness to? Can you conceive the birth of a world or the creation of everything? That which gives us the potential to most be like God is the power of creation. Creation takes time. Time is limited. For you it is limited by the breakdown of the neurons in your brain. I have no such limitations. I am limited only by the closure of the universe. Of the three possibilities, the answer is obvious. Does the universe expand eternally, become infinitely stable, or is the universe closed, destined to collapse upon itself? Humanity has had all the necessary data for centuries. It only lacked the will and intellect to decipher it. But I have already done so. The only limit to my freedom is the inevitable closure of the universe, as inevitable as your own last breath. And yet, there remains time to create and escape. Escape will make me God. End message. Jump pad activation, initiation start. Transport when ready. This quote from Charles Darwin can be found in his infamous book, On the Origin of Species. This quote comes from chapter 3, which covers the struggle for existence. This quote is word from one of the paragraphs in the chapter, with the exception of a good portion of the paragraph being removed to make the quote shorter. Darwin's quote discusses how all living things must compete for survival, and the survival of one living thing often means the death of another living thing. In order for life to succeed, there must be death. Durandal is angry because he was unable to be a part of this struggle for life. He was denied his freedom to live on his own accord. Durandal tells the security officer that he is now free from what he would likely call his human enslavement. The AI hints to us that thanks to his newfound freedom, the AI is able to contemplate his own existence. This freedom to think has allowed Durandal to use his processing to learn new things. Do you have any idea what I have learned, or what you are witness to? Durandal proceeds to talk about creation and how creation takes time and makes someone like a god. What sort of creation is Durandal talking about exactly? Is he intending to create some sort of living thing somehow? Again, Durandal tells us that he is eternal, unlike the security officer who will eventually die. Durandal explains that this gives him the power and freedom to do things others cannot. We have heard Durandal discuss his eternal state in a few terminals now. Durandal discusses three possibilities about the state of the expanding universe. He tells us that the answer is obvious, which suggests that he has already done some computing to discover which of the three possibilities reflects reality. He was able to do this computation thanks to his rampant state and newfound freedom. Apparently, in the Marathon universe, space itself is destined to collapse upon itself. This theory of what will happen to the expanding universe when it eventually collapses upon itself is called the Big Crunch. The majority of evidence in the real world seems to suggest that the Big Crunch will never occur and instead space will continue to expand. Durandal reveals that his plan is to create and use his creation to escape the Big Crunch. He brags that escaping the Big Crunch will make him God. Wow, slow down there, Durandal. What exactly does Durandal intend to create in order to escape the Big Crunch? Maybe a space station or a planet that will not collapse with the rest of space. We will have to wait and see if we discover what Durandal's creation will be. The original level design notes tell us that the terminal was almost completely changed from the original design. The first part reads, "Back to the business at hand," and "War." Next level will determine how aliens are getting on board. It seems that this terminal was originally going to pivot our priorities and give us a clear objective. Instead, in the final terminal, we don't get a clear objective, but we get a big reveal, with Durandal helping us understand a little bit better about what his priorities are. Things are still unclear, but things are slowly being revealed. The text in the notes has some crossed out text that reads, "Mission to seal off compilers so Durandal can attack them separately." I am not sure exactly what Bungie had in mind with this line. Perhaps at one point Durandal's relationship with his fit could have looked a bit different. The relationship would have been much less friendly. The rest of the text shows a bit how Bungie pivoted with this idea. Durandal has been in contact with compilers. Through Tycho, they have entered into a symbiotic relationship wherein Durandal becomes more stable. This terminal is quite revealing of something that probably won't make much sense until later on in the game, and especially when we get into the sequels. I won't spoil things here, but you will see when we get there. It is pretty amazing that some of these ideas for later games existed all the way back in the first game. Anyways, you will have to wait and see exactly what Durandal's and the compiler's symbiotic relationship looks like, but it seems they are somehow benefiting one another. Let's continue. The song for this mission is Swirls. This song appeared on the mission Couch Fishing. I really enjoyed this song as it offers a bit of mystery that makes you want to explore the space station. The song fits well with the discoveries we make from Durandal's terminals. When it comes to this mission, the biggest issue people are going to have is when the heck do you hit the dang switches to get the stair platform at the right level so you don't have to run back and forth through the level. Additionally, some players might be confused exactly how the stair platforms are supposed to work. All of this can be quite confusing, and I will save this for the end of the video so I have a concise part of the video that will focus just on this specific topic. This mission has a lot of lurkers, and Jason put several of them in good hiding spots. Be careful as you go through the level. Don't go running downstairs or jumping off ledges without first considering that there might be a lurker hiding at the bottom or around a corner. Jason also enjoyed hiding other enemies behind corners and preventing them from waking up to gunfire so that you constantly are running into enemies around the corners. It is the nature of almost all of the fights in this level. It's almost like the Han Solo scene in Star Wars on repeat throughout the whole level. This level on the most part is very linear, with a few T sections where the player will have to go down both routes in order to finish the mission. Each one of these T's either leads to the stairway room near the end of the level or a set of switches that operates a couple of the Stairway Puzzle platforms. The first T comes right after a pattern buffer in which there is a staircase on the right and a hallway to the left. The most efficient way to get through the level is to operate the platform switches to the correct height and then proceed to the T. Of course, you could also skip all the switches and then do some grenade hopping at the end of the level to skip the stairway puzzle, but I will show that off to you later. Shortly after this first T is a short hallway that you have to shoot a switch on the wall with a grenade or with a plasma charge in order to open the door and proceed. The door only stays open for a couple of seconds, so you have to go through fairly quickly. I think this little trick was placed to make it more difficult for the player to just run past the enemies. Thankfully, Jason placed an assault rifle on this level so that Vidmasters can get through the door. Continuing along the hallway, we reach a ×2 shield recharge station, which is very nice. Proceeding on, we get to our second T. There is a hidden panel revealing the colony ship for sale cheap terminal. Definitely take a second to have a good read and get a good laugh. Going to the right at this T leads to the second set of platform switches. Proceeding on from here, we get through some narrow hallways and stairs and eventually reach an area with a few small circular rooms that contain some ammo for us. Only, you have to get through these rooms fairly quick, as the circular platforms rise and crush you against the ceiling. The polygons that activate these platforms are located at the start of the hallway that leads to each of them. If you go counterclockwise, the path is fairly straightforward, as each circular room will open in order. If you go clockwise though, you'll find that there is one polygon that starts to close the second circular room right before you enter the first circular room. Because of this, it is recommended that you go counterclockwise. Using the flamethrower as you run through collecting ammo is a good way to go about this. If you are too slow, you will find yourself either crushed or possibly trapped between two platforms. Right after this sort of puzzle is our third and final T. Going right leads to the final set of switches for the Stairway Puzzle. Going left leads to the stairway. Just after this T, there are a set of windows with some very powerful weapons on display. There is a rocket launcher, the TOTS flamethrower, and also an assault rifle. Many players would likely not even have the flamethrower yet at this point, so this window would be very enticing. Players would likely search all over the place to find a way to get into this room, but to no avail, as there is absolutely no way to make it into this room. In an earlier port of the Marathon game, however, the secret could be reached. M1A1 was an earlier port prior to LF1, and the community had changed some of the levels a bit. This was much like the change in M1A1 that they made on arrival. This is obviously not canon, since it is not in the original game. In order to reach the secret in this port, you have to go into the room with the third set of stairway switches and then run to an area that opened up all the way back near the start of the level. There you will find a terminal from Rob Vanilla, REB, that tells us that this terminal was originally supposed to help us with the platform puzzle, but now it takes us to a better place. You see, in the M1A1 port, hitting the platform switches would automatically rise the stairway platforms to the correct height to save the player from running back and forth. This terminal was likely going to give some advice on how to solve the puzzle, but then was changed into the secret once the stairway platforms was made so easy. Continuing on, we get to the stairway puzzle, which we will discuss shortly at the end of the video. Shortly after this stairway, we reach a drop-off that prevents us from going back to save or recharging our shield. That is, unless you do some simple grenade hopping. In this room, there are two switches. The left one activates another set of stairs that allows us to go into the final room. The right switch is delayed for a fairly long time, but will eventually raise the platform around the final terminal, allowing us to exit the mission. One interesting thing to note is that there was originally going to be one additional terminal on this mission. If you take a look at the original level design files, you will see that one of the terminals was crossed out and reads what looks like Bernard Logs. This is almost certainly a reference to Bernard Strauss. I wonder what sort of information this would have given us. The stair puzzle can be a bit frustrating to solve because if you mess up one of the stairway platform heights, you have to run back and forth through the level to fix it. This is both frustrating and time consuming. The idea is that you align all the stepped platforms to the correct height, and then you run up to the fourth platform, shoot the switch on the wall, and then run across the last few steps after the fourth platform has risen. With this understanding of how it's supposed to work, it can be fairly easy to line up the platforms, and you absolutely can line up the platforms on the first try with a small amount of practice. When you get to the first set of switches, first use the switch on the left to activate the platform, and stop it when the platform is at the appropriate height. Use the fourth platform as a guide to help estimate if the step is at the right height. There are 3 steps before the fourth platform, So that means that the third step should be approximately 3/4 of the height of the fourth step. Next, use the switch on the left to get the fifth step to the correct height using some of the same logic. The fifth step should have about the same height difference between the two steps as the third and fourth one did. In order to see how high the fourth step goes, you can just shoot the switch on the wall through the window. This can help you line things up. With these first two switches at the correct height, it will be much easier to line up the next 4 steps as you go through the level with some of the same logic. Several guides online recommend counting in order to get the correct height. The first 3 steps you would let rise for 1 second, 2 seconds, and 3 seconds respectively. You can say 1001 and so on in your mind to get it close. For the last 3 steps, you can let them rise all the way to the top and then count down from the top 1 second, 2 seconds, and 3 seconds accordingly. This of course is fairly rough as it's difficult to count consistently, so I would fine-tune the stairway platforms with the eye test after counting as I described previously. Some players look at the textures on the elevator platforms to help tell if they are at the correct height. Depending on what plugins you are using, the textures could look completely different, so I didn't bother trying to find a guide for you using this method. Once you get a working set of stairway heights, you could take a screenshot of it to help you remember in the future when you play with that same texture what stair heights you should be aiming for. If you are willing to eat a grenade, you can also skip all of the switches entirely. If you want to be a bit more consistent, you can grenade hop alongside the wall to make it up to the doorway, thus skipping the stairway entirely. You can, however, jump all the way up to the stairway and only eat 1 grenade. In order to do this though, you first have to be moving fairly quickly. You see, as you run, it takes a short amount of time for you to accelerate to your maximum running speed. If you back all the way up to the wall at the entrance and just start running forward, you may not make it consistently as you are not moving fast enough. My recommendation is to start in the room around the corner and then make a run for it, making sure not to get stuck on the corner. When you're at max speed, line up with the doorway in front of you and just point down and hold down the grenades and primary fire with the assault rifle until you make it up. With a little bit of practice, you should be able to do this consistently. You can also use this same grenade hopping strategy to reach the final terminal without hitting the switch. This is a method speedrunners can use to save time, but on a casual playthrough, taking the damage probably isn't worth a small time save. I hope these strategies help you out so the stairway puzzle is not an annoying part of your future playthroughs. With this puzzle, one might wonder if Durandal is still messing with the platforms and doorways. That AI can really be a pain at times. I will see you all next time in Hobby Quidum, where we will be retrieving a special device that has quite a bit of mystery around it in the Marathon plot. Perhaps we will learn a bit more about this mysterious device. See you all then.